Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the phenomenon of watching a citizen watching their country, their once rich country, go to shit. So just fall to pieces, go into economic decline, watch their standard of living declining quite sharply. Now, when I was kind of a kid at school and then, studying economics and all that sort of stuff, I used to look at, we used to study basket case countries, how it came to be a basket case. Had it always been a basket case? Had it recently become so? What policies generally were pursued that made it a basket case, and so on. But I always thought that was the Banana Republic type places that would have that, where the idea of sort of nationalism and citizenship and civic duty and things like that kind of didn't exist. Whereas, we lived in the West, which was very cohesive, socially cohesive. We had rule of law. We had all sorts of things and checks and balances that would stop the madness that I was studying and later came to see up close, the madness in other countries that would tear it to pieces. For me, it was difficult to imagine that if we look at, say, Venezuela, the standard of living they had before Chavez and Maduro sort of got involved, the standard of living they had then to what they have today. Now, looking at various, say, African countries, we would study some where look how rich the country was up until the day the whites were evicted or left or voluntarily walked away or just accepted that they had a minority political voice. From the moment the blacks took over, then the countries went into economic freefall quite quickly. And the same in South America. Countries that maybe weren't doing so good would go down the communist or Marxist path and would do even worse. And if you look at, say, places like Cuba, and Cuba was sort of touted by the American communists as being some sort of a nirvana, some sort of a paradise where you had free healthcare and universal education and so on and so forth. And they would wave this around. Oh, well, look at Cuba. Now, I guess there's a few things. Firstly, was they didn't realise that the Soviet Union was heavily subsidising Cuba, buying their sugar and things like that for what was several times the world market price, and giving handouts of all sorts of farm equipment, machine tools and endless bits and pieces. And in spite of that, Cuba was still a shithole. So it was the universal education they talked about was a low standard of education. So the idea that they were pumping out PhDs by the shitload was just absolute nonsense. It was very poor quality education. Same went for the healthcare. The healthcare may have been universal, but it was utter crap. So everyone had access to a crappy system. But anyway, But this watching an economy or a country in free fall as a citizen or resident of that country, it seemed inconceivable to me, and it seemed equally inconceivable that could never, ever happen in the West. Not with representative democracy, not with elected representatives, not with independent courts, not with an independent public service, not with on a relative basis, the prudent economic management of responsible politicians and public servants. It could never happen in the West, and so we were insulated from that sort of madness because we just had a much better organised, better cohesive, more loyal, integrated society. But that's look what's happened. So we need to, in the West, we all need to come to grips with fact that the West is becoming poorer very quickly, and we're all having, we all have a much lower standard of living. That really, if it wasn't for easy credit, the standard of living would be, quite low. It would be falling into like middle income range countries. And remember, that's all happened in certainly from the early 1990s, when it really kicked off in earnest, until today. That's looking at approx 30 years, gone from being very wealthy to being, as I say, dropping into the middle income bracket for the Western countries. Only the available credit is making up that difference. If you look at the debts, some people I know have got on credit cards and private loans, motor vehicle loans and that sort of thing. It's quite astonishing. You've got to wonder how they ever manage to sleep at night with the different types of debt, and then many people existing in the gig economy. So just as I see it, that most people now are living a precarious existence with the gig economy. Jobs that used to once be long-term jobs, lifetime jobs, or if not lifetime, certainly you could stay pretty much as long as you wanted, other things being equal. Then our gig economy, people are employed on 12-month rolling contracts. All the benefits they once accrued for vacation leave and long service leave and all these other bits and pieces, they're all gone. And this idea that those benefits were added back into the daily or hourly rate that they get paid to the gig economy is utter nonsense. That's lost. That is a lost part of the standard of living. So people living precarious existences, not knowing sometimes from week to week if they're going to have a job the following week. I mean, that's quite stressful, particularly in a situation where people are carrying debt and are used to a much better, surer, more reliable, predictable standard of living and employment situation. Buying real estate now, you're looking at 75% less purchasing power in your paycheck than would have been 30 odd years ago. There's 25% less money in your pay packet to buy food. There's 35% less money in your paycheck to buy energy like electricity, petroleum, natural gas for heating, that sort of thing. And that's even a worse situation looming already for winter in Europe, in Britain and mainland Europe. So pretty much everywhere, in any direction you look in, your standard of living is lower and less affordable, more precarious, and getting worse. So we're watching, Western citizens are watching in real time as the globalists who control all our supposedly elected politicians, our elected representatives. They don't represent us, they represent the globalists. And we're watching in real time as these people dismantle with much vigor and gusto, dismantle our wealth, our standard of living, the purchasing power of our paycheck, the safety on our streets. I mean, the list just goes on and on of things they've taken away from us without our consent, often without our knowledge or agreement, often without a vote. And this was something that was unique to third world countries with unsophisticated, undeveloped political and legal systems. It seemed, again, as I mentioned earlier, unimaginable that this could happen in a nation with sophisticated and advanced legal systems, advanced economies, advanced political structure and public service and this sort of thing. It just seemed impossible. It couldn't happen. There was just too many things that were barriers to an outside takeover. Far fewer barriers in the basket case countries, much more easy to control. It's a very small elite, very rich, that control pretty much everything, and they're not hard to subvert and get into outside influences. But in the sophisticated democracies of the West, impossible. Maybe the very small economies like the Andorras and the Luxembourgs or something, but even then there'd be too many people around, other countries around that would want to stop any insurgency going on there. But this has all changed. The globalists have taken control. It's kind of a one world one world. Well, you could even call it one world government, but it's a one world sort of downtown central. Give out orders, give out instructions, give marching orders, propaganda script, the script of the day. That's all centrally controlled by the globalist boys downtown, and they're now in control, and they've taken out every institution, every political party, every party machine, every court pretty much has been. Oh, there's still a few courts left to go, but pretty much every court has been corrupted with activists, the NGOs running around. I mean, the achievements of the globalists will go down in history as almost incredible, that they could overcome that many sophisticated, advanced democracies with advanced legal systems. They could take over that many and do it all in the space of 30 years, less than 30 years. I mean, that is a real achievement. How could they get the Nancy Pelosi's and the Chuck Schumers and all these people to so actively and viciously turn against their own citizens? How did they do that? That just still I know it's happening. I know that they're doing it. I know that these people are, the Schumers and the Pelosi's are ardent globalists. I know that, but I still can't get my head around not only that the globalists were so successful and in such a short space of time, but why these people want to sell out their own citizens. Does it mean they always possess this sneering contempt of their fellow citizens? But that's what we're watching. We're watching in real time. Watching in real time our economies, our jobs, our livelihood, our future, the future of our children, our wealth, our safety, things that we once relied on and took for granted. All of that's being taken away, and with the active help of our elected representatives and fellow citizens. And again, I never thought I could ever. It was inconceivable. I never thought I could ever see it, but here we are, and it's happening. The question is, what are we going to do about it? You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.